everyone. Welcome to our virtual open house. I'm Carl Indovina, and we're just giving people a couple more minutes to get on, and we'll get started. Okay, we seem to be getting more people on, so I think we can get started. I again am Carl Indovina. I'm a clinical psychologist by training, and have been working for the last 26 years, have seen a lot of changes in the availability of mental health services, and the difficulty more recently in finding services for people who are in crisis. And that really led me to want to be a part of a solution, and was very fortunate to have the opportunity to apply for a grant to start this living room. And in addition to helping to implement the living room, I've been also working as a member of a team implementing our mobile crisis unit, which does co-response for mental health related calls, and have for the last better part of 20 years have been working with both adults and children with mental health and developmental disability concerns. So that's who I am, and but I'm less interesting than the presentation we have, and also Leah, who is going to be our presenter. Leah is a licensed paramedic, having worked in EMS for over 15 years. She's also a former paramedic for the Chicago Fire Department. In 2014, she was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of an on-duty related incident. Since her diagnosis, she has challenged the stigma surrounding PTSD and other mental health struggles as they relate to first responders. Leah uses her experience to help bring education, awareness, and support to others, to other first responders dealing with mental health issues. Leah understands the stresses of the job as a first responder and brings a unique perspective and ability to help provide support. Previously, the executive vice president of a first responder peer support organization, she now provides support and resources as a program coordinator for Trinity Services Living Room while pursuing her degree in psychology from Lewis University. Leah continues to be an ally and passionate advocate for struggling first responders and their mental health. So we're very lucky to have Leah and with her experience. And so without any further ado, I'll turn things over to her.
Great, thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. So as Carl said, my name is Leah. I am the program coordinator here, and I'm going to get started by sharing a PowerPoint presentation with you guys, kind of describing our living room and what we have to offer here. So I want to thank everybody for coming today. Welcome to our living room. We're very excited to have you all here. And today I want to talk about a bit about what the living room is and really what kind of services we offer and who we are here at the living room. I think that we are a very valuable asset to the community and can provide a lot of resources for the community, especially those struggling with their mental health. So I really want to highlight that value today. So Trinity Services started out as a one-room classroom in 1950. This was organized by a family, a group of parents and family members who were trying to find education options for their developmentally disabled children. Today, Trinity stands as one of the leading organizations in the field of developmental disabilities and mental health. So we're here trying to make changes and trying to help those around us. Our aim is to consistently respond to the needs of the community to continue to provide a wide array of services to those ever-changing needs, because we know that when it comes to mental health, the needs are continuously changing. So at Trinity Services, we recognize that every person has a unique need and very different interests. That's why we work to provide those individuals support that's individualized to each and every person. We take care to help everyone identify their personal goals, and we want to help them achieve those goals so that they can flourish and they can live abundant lives within the community. So Trinity's mission to help individuals is really the backbone of the services we offer. Right now, those services include residential centers, we have a school, a recreation center, various therapeutic centers, and now we are introducing the living room. So what is a living room? Simply put, a living room is an alternative to the emergency room. Approximately 1 in 5 people will visit an emergency department per year in the United States. Of those 1 in 5, about 4% are going to the emergency department for either a mental health illness or a substance abuse issue. So this includes things like, overdose, acute psychotic episodes, panic attacks, suicide attempts. Now, many of us here recognize that the emergency department is really not built for mental health issues or mental health crises. There is a lot of fear going into these emergency departments. In fact, the emergency room can be very traumatic for someone who is struggling with their mental health crisis. They're already in a very emotionally fragile state, and then having to go into the emergency department, that it's often very, they're unattended, it's a sterile environment, it's frightening, they're left alone. It could be very frightening, and usually someone who's struggling with their mental health is going to an emergency department with hopes of finding compassion and support, but yet because the staff is so busy, they're really not getting the attention that they deserve. And that's where we come into play. So the living room model is meant to replace the emergency room where it's appropriate. So it's a space that can be safe and inviting. It's non-clinical, it's very peer supported, and most importantly, it's non-judgmental. So the living room model has many advantages to an emergency department, including the fact that people are going to be more easily urged to go to a living room setting rather than an emergency department, because it's because of the non-clinical setting that we're putting out here. So people are going to be more willing to come here and get support rather than going to an emergency department where they might feel more threatened and less comfortable. So the living room here really helps to create a sense of autonomy for the person who's going through their mental health crisis, and it allows them to really work on their crisis in their moment without being stuck in an emergency department that sometimes might not even let them leave when they feel comfortable enough to leave. So here's a quick video of our living room and a brief tour of what we have here to offer.
Welcome to Trinity Services Living Room program. The living room provides an alternative for persons experiencing a mental health crisis. At the living room, guests can de-escalate and process their experience. They can also receive tools which help them to avoid future mental health crises. Upon arriving to the living room, guests will be welcomed by compassionate and supportive staff, willing to assist them through their struggle. They will be invited into the space, offered a snack and a beverage, and made to feel comfortable in this setting. Guests will then briefly meet with a mental health clinician who will conduct a screening and risk assessment. After this meeting, the guest is invited to talk with a recovery support specialist. The recovery support specialist is an individual who has recovered from either mental health or substance abuse disorders. They have also received training and can help guests navigate through the recovery journey. The RSSs are available on a walk-in basis or by appointment to meet with guests who are interested in receiving supports. The average length of stay at the living room is approximately 2 to 3 hours. The guests may leave when they feel they are ready. A brief exit interview will be conducted to ensure that the guest has received the assistance and support they need. If it is appropriate, the guest may be directed to other levels of care. The living room is open from 10:30 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days per week, 365 days a year. We serve adults 18 years of age and older, and all our services are entirely free. The Trinity Services Living Room is located in Orland Park at 14315 South 108th Avenue, Suite 222. Our phone number is 708-981-3370. If you or anyone you know is struggling with a mental health crisis and needs a safe, supportive place to discuss their issues, please visit our living room today.
So the Trinity Services Living Room is much like a lot of the other living rooms in the state. We are a non-clinical environment, and we're a place that's meant to be somewhere that someone who's experiencing a mental health crisis can come and visit to de-escalate. Or if they're just having a stressful day and they need someone to talk to, we're a place for them to de-stress and to have that support and find those coping skills that they might need to be able to get through either that crisis or that stressful situation. We offer guidance, and we offer support, and we try to make it a place that's very comforting and very safe, almost a friendly environment, as if you're kind of visiting a friend. We are staffed by clinicians that will provide the risk assessment initially, and then the guests will be moved on to the recovery support specialist. And these are people that have lived experience and who can use their tools to help our guests get through their crisis. The living room model does highlight peers working or collaborating directly with the guest to assist in symptom relief and coping. Now, as the video said, we are open 365 days out of the year. Right now, our hours are from 10:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. And the fantastic thing about the living room is we are entirely free. So for some people that are struggling to find that support because they can't afford it, and they need somewhere to go to talk to someone, they can come to us, and there's no insurance involved, no cost, and we can provide them that support that they need to get through their situation. Now, as I said, our approach is a non-clinical approach. So we really try to focus on making the guest feel as if they're not coming into a doctor's office or going into an emergency department. So the living room is different from traditional mental health offices and hospital settings. We really try to make this a place that it's kind of like visiting a friend, that they're coming to visit and talk with someone that's going to be there and support them. So it's been designed so that guests feel safe, comfortable, and not overwhelmed by excessive stimuli. So unlike the hospitals and many office settings, the living room is meant to be relaxing, so our space feels more homey and less sterile. So we have our place decorated with carpeted floors, we have artwork on the walls, soft lighting, and comfortable furniture, and it really makes it for a comfortable place. Now, we also offer guests when they come in snacks and beverages, just to kind of make it really homey and really inviting. We also consider guests guests rather than patients or clients. And the reason that we do this is to communicate that the living room is non-clinical, but also so that people can realize that we are very person-centered. So we're not trying to differentiate our roles here. They're guests and they're welcomed here as guests. So just as we invite guests into our homes to talk and for a cup of coffee, we invite guests here to visit our living room. So now recovery support specialists are individuals trained to incorporate their unique personal experiences with their own recovery so that they can help support others. The combination of experience and training allows the recovery support specialist to facilitate recovery and to help build resilience and coping skills for those guests who are struggling with mental illnesses or substance use disorders. Now, recovery support specialists acquire all this knowledge through a combination of specialized training, through their own experiences, through education, and supervised work experiences. Recovery support specialists utilize their lived experiences to help provide support to others. And these lived experiences have proven to be extremely valuable tools in the person-centered connection approach that we use here at the living room. Recovery support specialists assist individuals in becoming involved in their own personal mental health recovery. So we really work to guide the individual through their recovery rather than providing them with the answers. We are kind of meant to be kind of more the cheerleader, sort of. So recovery support specialists also recognize problems beyond their training and are carefully trained to refer to appropriate professional services as needed. But when we're doing this, we make sure to walk almost side by side with our guests because, again, they are a guest and their roles are no different than really ours. We also utilize clinicians. They're an integral part in our living room experience. So the clinicians are going to initially meet with the guest, and they're going to do the initial assessment and the exit assessment. Here in the living room, we use the SUDS, or the subjective, the subjective units of distress scale, or the Columbia Suicide Severity Scale, or the CSSRS. Now, these are very valid and reliable assessment tools that have been used in other living rooms, which is one of the reasons that we use them here. But on top of that, our clinicians have been trained in risk screening and assessment and crisis intervention. So they really know how to work with individuals that are coming in dealing with a crisis. Now, our living room staff. Our living room staff are considered to be experts in their own recoveries. Each one brings a wealth of knowledge to the living room and is able to support people in their own individual way based on the experiences that they have lived. Each staff member has specific experiences that they can draw upon to help support the individuals that are coming in here. And together, I really do believe that our staff's shared experiences make for a dynamic team of compassionate, caring, and dedicated mental health professionals eager to assist visiting guests. In addition to having expert staff that are experts in their recovery. We also have multiple staff members that are first responders. So this is fantastic because it does set us apart from other living rooms in that we have a unique perspective that can offer supportive services to police, fire, EMS, and dispatch. Now, who better to help first responders than other first responders? And having first responders on the staff here provides for that and helps to bring other first responders in and provide them the support that they might not otherwise get if they're forced to kind of go through their jobs, which often first responders don't want to do. Now, our future directions. We have some really great ideas that we want to do with the living room. First, we really want to collaborate. One of our goals is to be able to collaborate with various agencies, departments, other mental health providers, and other organizations that are working to help people that are struggling with their mental health. In collaboration, we can create a much bigger safety network for individuals that really are looking for that effective mental health crisis response. And that's where we come in, and we want to work with other groups so that we can be part of that. We do intend on expanding our hours. Right now we are open 10:30 to 8, and in the near future we do plan on having later hours because, as we all know, crisis is not 9 to 5. So we really want to make sure that we're going to be available to provide support to anybody that's going through a crisis response at any time. And then continue support. We hope to be able to provide support and help any individual, any guest that is coming into our living room. We are working to create a place that is known so that when someone is going through a crisis and they're having that moment or they're lacking a little bit of clarity, they know that they can come here and they know that they're going to be safe and they know that they're going to be welcomed. So we want to support the community the best way we know how, and that's by providing our services here at the living room. So being that we are not a crisis hotline, when our office is closed, we don't forward our calls to anybody. So if someone is looking for immediate assistance, they obviously can call 911. There's the SAMHSA number or the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. We want to make sure that people have access to these numbers because we're not always available, and we want to make sure that they have the resources that they need so that if they are struggling in a crisis, that they have somewhere to turn to. So as we said, our living room is located at 14315 South 108th Avenue, Suite 222 in Orland Park, Illinois. We are open 7 days a week, 365 days a year from 10:30 to 8 currently. Our phone number is 708-981-3370. And as a reminder, and I think that this is a really important point, we are a free service. So that's something that we really want to make sure that people understand and know. If anybody has questions, concerns, or comments, they can reach out to us by phone or they can email us, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. We'd be happy to invite you in for an in-person tour of the living room, or we'd actually be very happy if you were willing to refer anybody that might need our services. So I just want to say thank you, everyone. That's my presentation for now. I'm going to turn this back over to Carl and go from there.
All right, thank you, Leah. Great presentation. And so we just wanted to give a chance for questions, and hopefully I can figure out, or we can figure out how to do that. How to answer questions. All right. All right, so if you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box. Thank you, Joe. We are really excited to be here. Okay, any other questions? Questions or comments?
So Carl, we do have some questions in the Q&A section there. If someone does not have transportation, is there help with transportation?
All right. We currently aren't providing transportation services. Um, there, we have had persons brought by police who were responding to an emergency. Do you have anything to add to that?
Not right now. I'm hopeful that eventually we will be able to get some sort of transportation help, but right now we don't offer that.
And that I think also to add to that, we can provide services by phone. So we've had some individuals call in. I think one was even in Southern Illinois. Is that correct? We had somebody call from that region looking for some consultation. So we can do that. I think, of course, I being old school, prefer in-person meetings, especially for crisis services, but we can do things by phone, and we can even problem solve. We have worked to problem solve with persons to connect with transportation resources to get here for an in-person meeting.
So the next question is, what is the process to connect guests to further assistance if in crisis? So here in the living room, what we'll do is they do go through a brief assessment and then an exit assessment. If we feel that they are not appropriate for the living room and then do need a higher level of care or further assistance, we will contact whomever we need to, specifically the hospital, or an ambulance if we need to send the person to the hospital. We, of course, try to contain that because, people are coming to the living room to avoid going to the emergency department. But if they are an imminent threat to themselves or someone else, we will move forward with trying to send them to a higher level of care.
Yes, yeah. Our goal to help persons to not only de-escalate from the crisis, but averting future crises. And that may involve referring to some higher level of care. Um, Perhaps a residential program of some kind, or homeless supports, or other kinds of services that may be needed. Um, um, I have in the chat box, would you be able to share the location and contact info for local crisis respite programs as alternatives to inpatient support if it is needed after the living room? Certainly we could. We can we do provide referrals to other services. So, and other crisis and support services would be appropriate. Yeah, and in fact, I think we're looking to be partners and work in cooperation with other programs, agencies, as well as emergency departments, because I think we think that we can be a benefit to the community, and help in that we're providing help to persons who might be better served in other environments other than the emergency department. But then also, when somebody does need a higher level of care, refer on to the emergency department, if that is needed, if hospitalization is ultimately needed. Okay. If someone is experiencing a crisis, beyond what can be contained in the living room where our guests sent for further evaluation, that is the emergency room is generally what is appropriate if somebody's beyond, if it's deemed that a person is at imminent risk of harming themselves or others, either due to maybe suicidal ideation or maybe acute manic episode or psychosis, and even with the supports of the living room, is not going to be safe. Once they leave here, then we would refer on to the emergency room. There may be many other scenarios, that I'm not thinking of that would lead us to refer on to the living room. Or lead us to refer on to the emergency room or some other um, 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 so um, then if they call in and are connected, if they call in, are they connected to someone to talk to? Yes, absolutely. A person calling in could receive, the same services as anyone here, where talk to an RSS, talk to a licensed clinician for assessment, and also receive referrals for other services if appropriate. If first responders want to meet with someone, should they call ahead?
Yes, they should. We will not always have a first responder on shift. So it's probably best to try to call ahead to make sure that someone is here. But if they really are in a crisis and they want to come into the living room, they can come into the living room and then meet with someone who can then put them in contact with that first responder or first responder resources that we can help them through that situation.
Yeah, someone asked what hospital would persons be transported to, and I'm not sure that that's an answer, or I think a lot of that is dependent on the mode in which somebody is transported. If we call for assistance and first responders bring the person to the ER, then it is the choice of the first responders, as to which hospital the person would be brought to, which ER. If we're working with the person, they have family supports, and they want, then that's a decision that has to be made with the person and family, and we can certainly provide options, as to which institution would be favorable, but or would be appropriate for the person given their needs. Um, I had a question in the chat. Could you say more about the support provided for first responders?
So the support that's provided to first responders is really not going to be much different than the support that we provide to other guests. Really, the only difference is going to be that if a first responder comes in and speaks with another first responder, not only does that first responder have the lived mental health experience, but they have the lived experience as a first responder. So there's that connection that's going to be there. We do have resources, resource list for that provides resources for specific first responders. But other than that, there's really not that much of a difference.
Yeah. Yes, we're Sarah Levy asking, do you have a PDF or other written literature about your services? And we certainly do. We have brochures and flyers that we would love to share. If you contact us here either by phone or shoot us an email, we can forward those on to you. And we'd love to. So we want to get the word out about our services. Let's see, I think we have one more question. Since your program has opened, how often would you estimate you have had to refer out to more intensive services versus resolving at the living room? I think that's, again, that's probably somewhat dependent on, who is coming. Uh, I think that will probably vary, based on, largely, chance. I think, as I sit here, I'm thinking of maybe on one occasion of the persons we've served thus far that we felt, it necessary to refer the person to the hospital. Um, we were assessing the person at that moment to be at risk due to symptoms that were being experienced. Um, yeah, generally, the guests we have had thus far have, been able, have been appropriate for the living room. It's been a good environment for them. So.
And the nice thing too, about the living room is that even when we do refer someone out to higher level of care, they are welcome to come back after, and they are welcome to come to us and help work on building their coping skills or their toolbox so that they can potentially avoid getting to that intensity level of their crisis in the future. So we do work to try to establish that type of rapport and relationship with guests that do come in to us.
Yeah, I should add that, having worked with first responders, and I don't think that any I've worked with would mind my, sharing this, but that often, responding to someone in mental health crisis, the first impulse is to bring that person to the emergency room. But often what happens is the, there's a long wait in the ER, and the person is ultimately deemed, not appropriate for admission, either because crisis de-escalates or the person is not, wanting inpatient treatment, not wanting to consent to it, you know, or, the hospital ultimately assesses the person's not at imminent risk of harm to self or others and is not, willing to voluntarily sign in. So I think, in all of those cases, the living room is a good alternative. So I think, that's where, we one, one of the ways in which we feel we can benefit the community with our services. All right, any other questions that have come through here? At some point in the future, are there plans for a drop-in center? I would love to have a drop-in center. I think, part of the, the question is, will there be funding available for that sort of services? And like I say, we don't charge for our services. We're able to, provide the living room, due to grant funding. And which, gives us freedom to, be a resource. I think, drop in again, if there is funding available in the future to do that sort of thing, I think it would be a great additional service. And drop-in centers are often also peer supported as well, as, clinicians and RSS working together to make services available. So I think that is a good question. And I think there may be, opportunities to open more of those sorts of resources in the community in the near future. Yeah, I think there's a number of modes that are beneficial, partial hospital programs and PSRs and drop-in centers, all meet, needs, and living rooms as well as other crisis response. Let's see, any further questions? Is this location an extension of the summit? We are not. We are a separate program. Do you want to say more about that, Leanne?
So yeah, the Summit LaGrange and Broadview location, those are, that's through NAMI Metro Suburban. We're Trinity Services, and we are a completely different entity. We are similar services, but a different entity in and of itself. But together, the living rooms throughout the state are really working to help individuals throughout the state, so we are different, not an extension of them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have consulted with other living room programs, and even in cooperation with Professor Emeritus, who I believe is of DePaul University, Dr. Chris Keys, who I believe is participating in the open house. So and one of his couple of his graduate students, were performing a study of living room programs. Chris says yes, he is. And so that provided us some valuable information about practices of living room programs and what has been most helpful. And the DuPage NAMI DuPage programs, I believe, were participants in that study as well. So as well as providing support for us as we were getting started and putting the program together. All right. Any new questions? All right. Oh, I see one more question on here. How are you reaching out to other providers and hospitals to let them know there is a living room in Orland Park? I'll let Leah answer that.
Yeah, we've been calling and trying to network with different organizations, different providers. We've been going through our resource list that we have to make sure that everybody's the information that we have is updated. And we've been sending out information about our living room. Right now, we're hoping to be able to continue doing this, and we're hoping that word of mouth is actually also going to help get our information out too. But we will continue calling the different providers. So if anybody has any providers or resources that they would be interested in sharing with us, please feel free to email us, and we'd love to reach out and send more information to them.
Yes, and then someone in the chat is asking what about age range, adult. You want to say more about that, Leah?
It's right. We are our guests are 18 and older. So as long as you're 18 and over, there is no age range to come in. We talk with the individuals. We can talk to family members that are struggling with individuals, but it's more we don't talk about the family situation. We talk about what that person is going through. But so there is no age range, there is no really restrictions on who can come in, as long as the person is willing to work towards recovery and work towards creating their goals.
Um, yeah, I think, somebody coming in concerned about a family member is appropriate. I mean, I think then, we may work on potentially trying to get the family member in or connecting the family member to resources, or maybe, um, for their, the person experiencing mental illness. Um, uh, yeah. So, yeah, I think that um, that
So when working
yeah,
with someone who's going through a
I
struggle with their
think.
family member who's struggling, oh, did you freeze?
Are you freezing up?
Can you hear me?
Um,
Okay, so when working
yeah.
with a family member who's dealing with another family member that is struggling with mental health, we really work to try to create a support system for that person, because they too are going through their own, sort of crisis. So we want to be there
Mhm.
for them. So we don't, we can't really necessarily talk about specifics with, the specific family member per se, but we can help you to have your own coping skills and your own toolbox to be able to get yourself through that situation, so that you can be better suited to help provide support for your own family member.
Yeah, yeah, and I, there may be that, the host is or RSS you're talking to is directing questions at you in an effort to, just find out about any supports you might need in helping your family member. Um, but if you have any, yeah, any questions, or if, I think any concerns, make those. We are endeavored to be person-centered, and are looking to, provide what is helpful to you when you come in, and you define um, for us, what is helpful. Um, uh, yeah. So. Um,
Thank you,
uh,
Diane. If you want to try again, please feel free to give us a call or, come in. And
yeah.
I'm glad that you felt comfortable. That makes me really happy to hear.
Yeah. Here, I got a question here. Uh, is 708-981-3370 number the direct line for crisis? That is the direct line to the living room. Yeah, so anyone in crisis can call us. If it's after hours, we do um, have information on our website about other resources to call. Um, we will be extending our hours, as Leah noted, to later in the evening, but are not at this point planning to be open 24 hours, as is often the case with living rooms. Um, we're providing services sort of at the peak times, when persons tend to experience crisis. Uh, um, all right, and then Marianne was saying, please feel free to direct family members to NAMI South suburbs of Chicago.org website to learn more about mental health. Thank you, Marianne. I think that is a great resource, and certainly, um, I think often family members do require a lot of support,
Yeah.
and often are an invaluable resource in helping someone connect to the services that will ultimately assist the person in becoming, more stabilized and and moving towards recovery. All right. I think we have reached the end of our questions. Anything else, Leah, to say, or?
No, I'm going to share our screen. Here's our contact information again. So if anybody has any questions that they weren't able to ask today, they can give us a call or email us. Or if they want to refer anybody to us, we are open and ready to accept any guests that are willing to come and talk with us.
All right. All right. Well, thank you everyone for participating in the our Trinity Services Living Room Open House. We'll be on, we'll be signing off here in a little bit, but if you have any last questions, please feel free to fire them off, and we'll answer them before we sign off. All right. You're very welcome, Chris. Chris said thank you for providing information. We are happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming today. I appreciate it.
Yes, you guys, everyone, please have a good afternoon. And if you have any further questions or would like some literature about our services, please feel free to contact us and we'll send that on.